what we do for the Steel Toe Morning Show YouTube channel. A new study, let's put that up on the video feed capture there, brought to you by Tactical Advantage. As if millennials, you didn't think that my people could get any worse. Of course, the evolution of the millennial has gone from offended about everything,
right,
to eating laundry detergent,
snorting condoms.
1/3 of them believing that the earth is flat.
That's not true, is it?
That was one we just did last week, yes. That was
Are you kidding me?
out of the 8,000 millennials they asked, and that's a pretty good sample. 1/3 of them said that they believe the earth could be flat.
So we're doomed.
Well, okay, so that alone made you think that we're doomed.
Well, I mean,
how about,
not us, your kids.
How about 40% of them don't know that 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust?
Oh, did they take history out of schools now? Is that too racist?
I guess they must have, because more than 1/5 of millennials in the U.S., 22%, haven't heard of or aren't sure if they've heard of the Holocaust. The study, which was commissioned on Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day, conducted by Schoen Consulting, also found that 11% of American adults overall haven't heard of the Holocaust or aren't sure if they did. Now, first of all, I think the not sure people are more troubling than the didn't know. Because the didn't know people can just live under a rock and they don't know anything. But to sit there, it's almost like more insulting to go, Holocaust. Boy, not sure. Is that the one where Napoleon? No, it's not Napoleon. Okay, Holocaust. I know it. Don't tell me. Like, that's almost worse than saying, yeah, I never heard of it.
Or if they're denying 9/11, too. That'd be another thing.
Yeah.
That's a little closer to home.
Yeah. Additionally, 41% of millennials believe 2 million Jews or fewer were killed during the Holocaust, the study found. 6 million Jews were killed. I mean, you're off by 4 million.
Okay.
I mean, that's not a small amount. I mean, if someone were to, like, misspeak and they go, 5 million Jews or whatever killed in the Holocaust, you'd be like, okay, well, it's 6, but I know what you mean.
What's your basis, though, of, like, making the numbers smaller? Like, where do you get the, I don't believe it was 6. It's more like 2. Like, how the hell would you know that?
Yeah, if you talk to a millennial and you go, I think it was 2, why? And millennials, they think they know everything.
Right.
And these are my people. By the way, I am a millennial, okay? Full disclosure. I wish I could say I wasn't, but I missed Generation X by about 4 years. So it would be funny if you talk to a millennial and you're like, yeah, it was 2 million. You're like, God, you kids are dumb. No, it was 6 million. You don't know what you're talking about. Then they kick open the door to their room and there's those red strings connecting different things on the wall, and they've got push pins in there. Like
A Beautiful Mind at the very end.
Yeah, like they're doing that whole thing. And it's like, boy, you kids are dumb. 2/3 of millennials could not identify in the survey what Auschwitz was. 66% couldn't identify what Auschwitz was. The survey found there were critical gaps both in awareness of basic facts as well as detailed knowledge of the Holocaust. And we put this story up on the Steel Toe Morning Show Facebook page for you to comment. One thing I can say about this, Oz, I think America's teachers definitely deserve a raise. I mean,
yes.
Just really...
We call that a bang-up job.
I mean, really, if you don't know what the Holocaust is, I understand that's your fault. Ultimately, it's your responsibility for not knowing. But if you went to school, shouldn't your teachers have nailed that thing down?
Yeah. In our high school, we had a fantastic history teacher. Not only would he get animated about telling the stories, and then he'd show you the shock videos of, like, them pushing bodies into holes. You know?
He'd go all the way.
Oh, I mean, but that's how you learn, though. You remember that crap. You watch a bulldozer pushing a bunch of skinny bodies down into a hole, it changes you a little bit.
We had a Holocaust survivor.
That'd even be like one up on that. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, come in and talk to us. And she showed us the tattoo and everything. And you're like, dude, that is brutal.
That's where it makes it real, though. Then that's what some of these kids need, obviously. You know?
I don't know. Honestly, watching documentaries with, like you said, the mass graves and everything and all that, for me, that's almost worse. Because it's, while talking to someone, they're telling you their story, what happened to them, and so on and so forth. Actually physically seeing the skinny bodies standing at the barbed wire fence.
I know,
when
that's
the Allies
the tough stuff to watch, yeah.
That is brutal. The coolest thing about Eisenhower during World War II is when the German people... they invited the German people to tour the camps and see the graves and everything else. The German people went, we didn't know. We had no idea. And Eisenhower just looked at all of them. He said, clean it up. They said, what? Yeah, no, you're going to dig up the graves. You're going to exhume the bodies. You're going to clean up the ashes. You're going to collect the gold jewelry, the teeth, the everything. And they're like, oh, it smells. And Eisenhower was like a beyond pissed off father. He's like, no, this is you. My troops are tired. They've been marching all over the continent. You're going to clean this up.
Mm-hmm.
And in some of these towns, he'd have the German citizens come out and dig the whole thing out. And the German citizens were like, well, they'd talk to, they'd be quoted as saying, like, well, we didn't know, and this is terrible and awful that we have to clean this up. It's like, well, should have done something about it. I bet you when you were conquering France and Poland and all this stuff was being set up, you were celebrating how great your country was and how you were going to win this thing. And now that it's over and you're having to deal with the consequences.
Eye-opener, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the study on Holocaust awareness and knowledge in the U.S. was conducted between February 23rd and 27th and involved 1,350 interviews with American adults 18. Oh, this is 18 and older, so this isn't even younger millennials, like 16-year-olds. They went with people who have
driver's licenses and can vote. Oh, my.
This is a great argument for raising the voting age to 25.
Oh, this is an argument for raising the age for a lot of things.
I mean, 18 and older, should you be allowed to graduate high school if you don't know what the Holocaust is?
I guess.
I feel like there are a few things in American history and world history that you should know before you have to graduate. The American Revolution.
Right. Look at the big five.
Yeah. The Civil War, both of the World Wars, and Vietnam. Or the Cold War. We'll just lump the Cold War in with all of it. You should know all of that stuff. If you don't know one of the, if I say, hey, what's the Cold War? And you can't give me a kind of a synopsis of what it was, I think you got to go back to your senior year.
I think you should at least know a little bit about everything, even everything up to current. Like even Afghanistan,
Yeah.
For Iraqi freedom and all that.
Well, hell, you lived through that. You should know that part.
Yeah, it was high school for me, when the the Saudi Arabia stuff started. So,
I mean, 40% is a shocking number, but I guess I didn't realize how many people were just this intellectually lazy and stupid. I honestly, 10% would have shocked the hell out of me. Like 10%, if you go a Holocaust and they go, huh? What? I got to holla at somebody? No. The Holocaust. Do you know what it was? I would think someone was messing with me. I would think they were pretending they didn't know.
But I think initially, though, the whole flat Earth thing needs to start there, because if they're doing the flat Earth thing, then everything else behind that, including the wars, they're so screwed up in the head, it ain't going to do any good. So you better start with the like put them in front of a globe and just have them stare at it for a little while. And
do you know that there are people out there, and I guess this could make up some of the 40%, they don't believe it ever happened.
Right, yeah, I do. I've heard that.
Where did you think those videos were coming from? Do you think that just thousands of actors said, oh, I really want to do this role, let me lose a dangerous amount of weight?
CGI just goes way back further than people thought.
The CGI goes back to the 1940s. It was given to us by aliens. I don't know how the hell you end up thinking that way. I've actually been on Twitter having arguments with a guy who was a denier.
Oh, sure.
And it's kind of like arguing with 9/11 truthers, where they're just waiting to throw you all of their stuff.
Yep.
Like you'll write something back to them and you'll just go, you didn't read it.
Yeah.
You just did not read it.
That's because they have their bullet points,
Yeah. How about this person who says they watched their mom and dad get marched off to death? They're like, oh, that kid's a liar. Yeah. What? Like, what do you, but you, I have a newspaper GIF, or what do you call it? Adobe PDF file from a newspaper in the 40s. Yeah, that was never, I'm sure that was never tampered with over time. Drake writes, but hey, those history teachers need that raise. How am I supposed to tell these kids that the Holocaust existed if I only make $50,000 a year for 9 months of work? What the hell? Jim writes, school board place to know. My God, the Hamburglar? I don't get that. Adam writes, World War II in color on Netflix is a great documentary series on this. Very well done. Yeah, seeing that stuff in color is nuts. I mean, it's just...
That helps, to make it more real.
Yeah, it's brutal. Zach writes, I have heard of colleges telling their students that the Holocaust is a made-up story. I need to see an article on that.
I wouldn't be surprised, though.
You know what? Of all the things I wouldn't be surprised by, I'll give colleges more credit than that. I would be surprised if they were actually teaching them that. Unreal. Jennifer writes, maybe some want to believe it didn't happen, like banning the Confederate flag and erasing that history. No. I think it could just be they're dumb and they don't care.
Probably the latter.
Brooks writes, Eisenhower went all road dog on the Germans like, oh, you didn't know? Yo ass better call somebody. He really road dogged the Germans. Mackenzie writes, big government is succeeding in dumbing down the population.
That's true. It's probably something they're putting in our food. That's my conspiracy.
It's purple dye that they're putting in the food supply. It's killing the children's brains.
We found out that purple dye actually makes you believe the earth is flat.
Yes.
Well, bust out the grape soda.
Actually, what happens is it's the grape flavoring. What it does is it actually changes your vision so you can't actually see horizons. And so you think everything is a disc. The world looks like a CD when you've been eating too much of that stuff. No, people say, oh, the government's trying to dumb down the people. Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity. I don't think the government needs to dumb people down. I think there's so much stuff out there. If people want to ignore things, they can. You can just dumb yourself down. It's kind of like, oh, watch out. You know, the book 1984 said the government's going to start spying on you. No, it's not. We're spying on each other. We're willfully just handing information over. It's not like the government's secretly looking into us and grabbing all our stuff. We're just putting it out into the ether. Putting it out into the sky. The stuff that people used to worry about, we just go, Well, there's that funny meme that says, in the 1950s, they said, I can't be on the phone long. They might be tapping our phones. And then today, they're talking to their Alexa. They go, hey, wiretap, how do I make pancakes? Philip says, how is this a surprise? I'll have kids between the ages of 21 and 25 see my Operation Iraqi Freedom tattoos, and they ask what they'll mean, and I tell them, and they give me the dumb face, so I say Operation Iraqi Freedom, and they still look confused, and then I explain the war in Iraq, and they finally start to have some sign of brain activity.
Oh, boy.
That one's sad because you lived through it. Like that happened in your lifetime. Arlen writes, is this bad teachers or just a combination of bad parenting, teachers, and public schools? All high school students should have to watch Schindler's List before graduating. They probably also think 9/11 was just a bad dream.
There's two movies that you should definitely watch in high school. It's Schindler's List and The Breakfast Club, and we got to do both.
I thought you were.
Well, I was taking a turn there, but no, we actually got to you signed a permission slip saying that there was language in there, and that's how you learned about your classmates, like the different jocks and all that stuff. We watched Breakfast Club, and it was life-changing.
I thought that you were going to name two Holocaust movies.
No.
I didn't think
we're talking social and history. We're rolling it all into one ball of trying to make people normal.
Forget Schindler's List. Just have them watch that World War II in color for your whole...
That one is, yeah.
That documentary is better than any history teacher you'll ever have. And I'm sorry, history teachers, but you get your ass kicked by World War II in color. I think it's narrated by Gary Sinise.
Which is even more perfect.
And if someone asked me, hey, do you want the best history teacher in America, or do you want Gary Sinise?
I want Lieutenant Dan telling me about war. That's amazing.
All right, well, listen, a lot of these guys got their legs blown off, and then they married a Vietnamese woman and got metal legs. It's like, whoa, I think you're mixing up the stories there, Lieutenant Dan. I think you need to bring it back to zero, and we need to cut that over.
Dan, you got new legs.
New leg. Oh, my favorite part of Forrest Gump is when that dullard looks at Lieutenant Dan after he says, aluminum, titanium alloy, just like they use on the space shuttle. And Forrest, after seeing his best living buddy from the war and his business partner, and they made billions together, and Lieutenant Dan has been telling Susan the whole ride to Forrest's beautiful house out in the middle of nowhere about how amazing this guy is, and he saved his life and brought him back to the world and made him a millionaire. And Susan, we only have this money because of this guy. And the first thing Forrest says in front of Susan is, magic legs.
Oh. And then he looks back at Jenny, too, and he's like, you got new legs.
Yeah. What was Jenny going to say? Going, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
I think that's fake. Come on, do some squats. Show me they're real.
Hey, did you know that the Jenny didn't have AIDS? Like, they went back and asked Hanks about that?
Yeah, didn't they say it was like Hep C?
Yeah, it was. I mean, everybody thought AIDS. It's like,
I still think
What a
AIDS.
disappointment.
Yeah. I'm going to be one of those 40% of millennials that believe
I
Jenny
don't even
had
believe
AIDS.
Forrest existed, actually.
Oh, really? You
Nope.
think Forrest was just a figment?
Have a nice day. I don't believe that that's where that came from.
You know what it was? It was actually a fever dream from the old man in the barber
Is that
shop.
what it was?
Yeah. You didn't know. The one who said that.
I know.
boy
I do know.
Show is a running foe. That guy fell into a coma later after that, and that whole movie was his dream. That's if Christopher Nolan made it. The Steel Toe Morning Show continues. We'll throw that story up on the YouTube page later today.